Welcome to Thriller Vault. If you're like most people, you likely believe OJ Simpson killed Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman. Private investigator William Deere worked on the OJ case for 17 years, and he found strong evidence that OJ is innocent, and someone very close to OJ committed the murders. Mr. Deere documented his findings in his 2012 book, OJ is Innocent, and I Can Prove It. I have adapted, edited, paraphrased, and turned Mr. Deere's book into a story. Some minor details may be speculation and or fiction, especially regarding the main character's inner thoughts and motivations. Furthermore, as Mr. Deere states in his book, the alleged suspect is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Here is OJ is Innocent. My name is Jason Simpson. That probably doesn't mean anything to you. I'm a nobody. But my dad, you would definitely know my dad. OJ Simpson. See, I knew you would know him. Everyone does. I mean, he was famous my whole life, and then he was accused of murdering my stepmother, Nicole, and her friend Ron Goldman. He beat the murder rap, but everyone still thinks he's guilty. That really hurt my dad, because he always wanted everyone to love him. But after the trial, people would call him a murderer to his face.
I've never personally shaken hands with a murderer. It's good to see.
It was awful, but I'm getting ahead of myself. It's not easy being the oldest son of a legend. It's a lot to live up to. I tried to be the man he wanted me to be, but somehow, I've always been so messed up. I've always been the black sheep of the family. I've always had this rage inside of me that I can't control. My dad used to beat the shit out of me when I acted up, but I think that made me rage even more. I used to get in fights at school. I was drinking and doing drugs. When I was 14, I overdosed and had to go to the hospital. I think my dad was more concerned about my behavior embarrassing him than actually helping me. When I was young, I mostly lived with my mother, but I was too wild for her. So I went to live with my dad and Nicole, which was better for a while, but we had issues. My dad had this big bronze statue of himself. He loved this stupid statue, had to help constantly cleaning it. He pissed me off so bad that I took a baseball bat to it. I stole my dad's car too. And Nicole actually turned me into the police. Can you believe that? I didn't do jail time, but it's still messed up. If I'm being fair, my parents did try to get me help. I went to the UCLA Neuropsychiatric Institute. They said I had intermittent rage disorder, which gave me seizures sometimes. I was prescribed Depakote, which is a drug to help people like me suffering from rage issues. I've never liked football, but ever since I was little, people have been telling me that I'm going to be a football star like my dad. Even though I didn't like football, I tried anyway. I went to USC like my dad and played football like my dad, but it didn't work out. I was partying too much. I didn't keep up with my studies and I failed out. I was so miserable. I think I did it on purpose so I could get out of there. I've always loved cooking and I wanted to be a chef with my own restaurant, but my dad had a problem with this. I think it's because my grandfather liked cooking too. You're probably thinking, what's wrong with cooking? Well, my grandfather was gay, and I think my dad associated cooking with being gay. But I'm definitely not gay. Sometimes I think I get obsessed with the women I've been with. It's like I love too deeply, and I need that deep love in return. Here's an example. I used to date this woman, Dee Dee. We were pretty serious, living together at the time. We got into this argument because she lied to me. Lying is something that really pisses me off. I felt like she didn't give a shit about me. I was so upset that I stabbed myself in the stomach twice with a pair of scissors. I think I was just frustrated. I didn't really want to kill myself. The cuts weren't that deep. But I was right about Dee Dee. She was a lying bitch. We broke up a few months later and she moved out. She was seeing her ex-boyfriend while she was supposed to be with me. I was devastated. I loved her. It hurt so bad. I was self-medicating with drugs and alcohol. One night, I was high and drunk and I went over to her apartment and I punched her window. I took a shard of glass and slashed my wrist. But I survived that and got 17 stitches in my arm. I felt like I couldn't even kill myself right. Dee Dee moved to New York, and I moved there too. I was still hung up on her, so I was trying to get back together with her. Dee Dee told William Deere that I was stalking her, which really pissed me off. I wasn't stalking her. I was trying to give our relationship one last chance. It didn't happen though. So I went back to LA. I was spiraling down. I was depressed. I had lost my job. I lost Dee Dee. I was all alone. I thought, what's the point of being here? So I took 30 of my Depakote pills. I'm supposed to take 3, so I figured it would be enough to end this pain. After I took the pills, I called my mom and left her a message telling her that I loved her. I didn't want her to feel like any of this was her fault. If I hadn't left that message, I would have died. But she heard the message, got worried, and came over to check on me. They rushed me to the hospital and induced vomiting to get the pills out of my stomach. I eventually got over Dee Dee. But then, after the murders, I found out she was talking shit in this OJ is Innocent book. I mean, I know my dad's innocent, but this asshole William Deere was pointing the finger at me. This William Deere guy found Dee Dee and asked her a bunch of questions about me. Dee Dee claimed that she left me because I was beating her up. That was bullshit. She hit me more than I ever hit her. She claimed that I picked her up over my head and threw her into the bathtub. She said I almost broke her back. I put her in there because she was acting crazy, but I didn't slam her in there like Hulk Hogan or some shit. She's such a liar. That was our problem. Her lies. She also told Deere that I cut off her braids with my chef's knife. Said I was acting jealous for no reason. I had plenty of reasons to be jealous. She was seeing her old boyfriend. It's all bullshit. Like I said, I moved on from Dee Dee. It was hard, but I moved on. I got another job, working as a prep chef for Paul Goldberg, but that didn't work out either. Goldberg was an asshole. We had issues, and he let me go. This was in December of 1992. I went to the restaurant to ask for my paycheck, but Goldberg took me outside and told me that he wasn't paying, and he called me the N-word. He came at me and I pushed him. That was it. I didn't assault him with a kitchen knife. I know that's what my probation said I did, but I accepted the deal the DA offered me. I just wanted to move on. I found another job at Jackson's restaurant in LA. A few years later, I started dating Jennifer Green. I thought we had something special, but we argued too much. On my 24th birthday, June 12th, 1994, we went out to an LA nightclub to celebrate with a bunch of friends. I was pretty hammered at the time. Anyway, I was talking to one of Jennifer's friends. I didn't do anything sexual, but Jennifer thought I was flirting, so she was like, "I'm leaving." I told her, "You can't leave, it's my birthday." She ran outside and I chased her into the parking lot. We were screaming at each other. Two of our friends put us in a car and took us home. I think they were worried that we might be arrested for disturbing the peace. Of course, we kept going at it in the car, but this is what happens when you feel so passionately. When we got to our apartment, we fought some more, and she eventually left for the night. But that's not what the National Enquirer said. Do you remember that gossip rag? Jennifer's friend was running her mouth in the paper. She said I was in a drunken rage, that I smashed some pots against the side of the building. She said I chased Jennifer into our apartment, which is stupid. It's my apartment too. I have just as much right to be there as Jennifer. She said that I chased Jennifer into the bedroom and picked up a heavy wooden table and threw it at her, like I'm the Incredible Hulk or some shit. She said that the leg of the table scraped Jennifer's chest. Then Jennifer ran from our apartment to her Volkswagen Jetta. That part is true. She was sick of arguing. But that stupid bitch told the Enquirer that I ripped open the door to Jennifer's car and I grabbed her and choked her. She said that I would have killed her if a neighbor hadn't intervened. It's all bullshit. If I did all that, why didn't they send me to prison? It wasn't just my ex-girlfriends lying about me. There's this guy, Ron Ship. He's retired LAPD. I thought he was my dad's friend, a friend to our whole family. But he was talking shit to William Deere too. Said I was stalking Nicole when she moved out of my dad's house. Nicole and I were cool. We used to go out dancing and partying together. I wasn't stalking her. She was my stepmother. I loved her. A few months before the murders, I stopped taking my Depakote. I know it helps with the raging, but it was messing up my head, so I was trying to get off the drugs, all drugs. I thought I could control it, but I couldn't. It was another thing I failed. I ended up going to the emergency room because I was going to rage. I needed Depakote, but I didn't want to take it. I needed my mind to be clear. On the night of the murders, June 12th, 1994, my little sister Sydney had a dance recital. I wanted to go, but I was working at Jackson's restaurant that night. I was the head chef on Sunday nights. I had invited Nicole and our whole family to come to eat at Jackson's after the recital. She agreed, and I was excited to cook for the whole family. I ordered some special ingredients for the occasion. It was my chance to show my family that I'm really good at something. I told my coworkers that my family was coming, and I wanted everything to be perfect. But then Nicole no-shows on me. She lied to me. She didn't even give me any notice. I had a huge table saved and ready, but they went to Mezzaluna instead. Nicole said it was closer and cheaper. I was pissed. The next morning, I found out Nicole was dead. William Deere might think I had something to do with it, but I had an airtight alibi provided by my boss. I was cooking for 200 people when the murders happened sometime between 9:50 and 10:25 p.m. I have a time card to back that up, and I was with my girlfriend Jennifer Green until after 11. William Deere seems to think my alibi isn't valid because Jackson's restaurant doesn't seat 200, and there were only about 40 people that Sunday night, and we usually close early when it's slow on Sundays. I know there was a discrepancy when the civil trial came out. Jennifer said in the civil trial that I left the restaurant at 9:45 p.m. and dropped her off around 9:50 p.m. According to her, I was alone after 9:50 p.m., but who can remember these times exactly? My time card still says I was at the restaurant at the time of the murders. I normally use the time clock, but I forgot on June 12th, so I had to handwrite my times. William Deere was right that the LAPD had tunnel vision for my dad. I was surprised that they didn't even interview me. My dad was worried that the cops would come after me, so much so that he hired a criminal attorney to represent me. If you think about it, my dad and I have similar DNA, almost the same shoe size. I even borrow my dad's shoes and clothes from time to time. Then there's my mental health history. This quack from Massachusetts labeled me as a walking time bomb. Luckily, the LAPD never compared my footprints and fingerprints to the unidentified prints at the murder scene. Not saying I was there, I wasn't. I'm just saying that they could have tried to frame me like they did my dad. Even if they did try to frame me, my psychiatrist said that they could never convict me because of my mental condition. That's between you and me. My psychiatrist shredded all my records right after the murders. The DA's office said it was a rage killing by an amateur. Of course, with my intermittent rage disorder, you know what people might think. The whole thing was a nightmare. I was really worried that my dad was going to kill himself. That's why I broke through the police line to talk to him after the Bronco chase. I wanted to tell him not to do it. I know what it's like to want to die. The funeral was awful. I got the hell out of there. I couldn't even look at Nicole's dead body. The trial was a shit show. The LAPD and the DA just wanted to win. They didn't care about convicting an innocent man. All you have to do is look at the bloody socks. Dr. Frederick Reeders examined the socks for my dad's attorney. The blood had EDTA in it. EDTA is used when blood is put into a vial for preservation. That blood was placed there from a vial. They took blood from my dad when they arrested him. The LAPD is so crooked. Black people have been dealing with this shit forever. People saw what they wanted to see. When the murders happened, my dad was working on this show called Frogmen about these ex-Navy SEALs. People made a big deal because they got knife training for the show. So what? That doesn't mean anything. I had knife training too, in high school at the Army and Navy Academy in Carlsbad. I thought this shit would go away after a few years, but then William Deere came out with his bullshit book with bullshit theories. The guy's obsessed. He's been working on this case for like 17 years. He even bought my Jeep. Somehow he bought some of my stuff from my abandoned storage unit. There were a bunch of pictures and my knife. In one of the pictures, I was playing with my dog and wearing a knit cap like the one at the murder scene. So what? I'm sure the knit cap company sold more than one of those hats. But William Deere pointed out that the knit cap from the crime scene had human and dog hairs inside the cap. The human hairs did not match my dad's hair. At this point, you might be thinking I had something to do with the murders. I don't really care what anybody thinks anymore. It's over. Let it go. Oh, you don't want to let it go, do you? You're probably wondering about that knife that William Deere got from my storage unit. I don't know what you want me to say. It's a double-sided knife meant for cutting and killing, but that doesn't mean I killed anyone with it.
It's designed for one purpose, to cut and to kill.
Apparently, a different blade was used on Ron and Nicole, which means my double-sided knife could have, well, you know. You probably already think I did it. The handle on the knife is the most suspicious part. The cap on the handle is missing, and William Deere seems to think the handle fits the cut on Nicole's scalp perfectly.
The markings that Nicole sustained on her scalp came from the butt of this knife.
Deere thinks I went to Nicole's condo in a rage about being stood up for the dinner. Then Nicole told me to F off. Maybe she even slapped me. Nicole had smacked my dad's housekeeper, so she could be violent. And maybe I went off and hit her on the top of her head with the butt of my knife, knocked her unconscious. She hit her head on the tile. Then, maybe Ron Goldman showed up at the wrong place at the wrong time, trying to be the hero, trying to use his karate on me. I carved him up quick, though. Once he was done, Nicole stirred, but I couldn't let her live. I grabbed her by the hair, exposing her neck, and sliced it from end to end, nicking her vertebrae and severing both carotid arteries in the process. There was so much effing blood. Once I came down from my rage, I realized what I had done. So I called the one person who could help me. The one person who had always helped me when I screwed up. My dad. He came to the scene. That's why his footprints are there. That's why there was blood from Ron and Nicole in his Bronco, but only a tiny amount, enough to barely cover a man's thumbnail. If my dad had killed them, he would have been covered in blood from head to toe. This is why they didn't find any blood in the pipes at my dad's house, even though the LAPD tore out the plumbing looking for blood. When I called my dad, he knew what to do. He knew he would be the main suspect. If he could just keep the heat on himself, then he knew the LAPD wouldn't look at me. All he had to do was act the part of the guilty man. I think it was the best performance of his life.
Did not do it. No, I didn't. Nope, did not do it.
Of course, that's if you believe that crackpot William Deere. I'm actually innocent. My dad's innocent. I don't know who killed Nicole and Ron, but I need to move on with my life, and you need to let it go. According to William Deere, Jason Simpson should have been investigated as a suspect in the murders of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman. Additionally, OJ Simpson wasn't the slam dunk suspect the LAPD and the DA's office presented at trial. While OJ does have a history of spousal abuse, according to Dr. Lenore Walker, an expert on the subject, OJ's behavior didn't fit a pattern that would end in murder. Furthermore, there's no evidence that OJ used a weapon during disputes, and OJ is known to be squeamish when viewing blood. If he were to murder two people, his likely weapon would have been one of his many guns. There were unidentified footprints at the crime scene. Blood and skin under Nicole's nails did not belong to OJ Simpson. The LAPD found 15 separate unidentified fingerprints at the crime scene. None matched OJ Simpson. According to the book, Killing Time, the DNA found at the crime scene wasn't an exact match to OJ's. DNA experts explained that blood at the crime scene from any of OJ's 4 children would have been virtually indistinguishable from OJ's blood. The tiny amount of blood found in OJ's Bronco and at his Rockingham house suggests that OJ was at the crime scene, but he didn't commit the murders. Ron Goldman had severely bruised knuckles, indicating there would have been visible bruising and cuts on the attacker. But according to the LAPD, OJ had no bruising or cuts, except for the cut on his knuckle. What do you think? Do you think OJ is guilty? Or do you think Jason killed Nicole and Ron? Or do you think it was someone else? Comment down below. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Thriller Vault. If you enjoyed this story, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I hope to see you all next week for another thriller story.